Andrew, good evening.
Gary, how are you? You all right?
Average, Andy, but this is show 44, is it not?
Are you only average, Gary?
I'm only average. That's a standard answer I've got when anybody says, how are you? So I don't need to think about
it. Well, I suppose it's better than all right.
I
Maybe,
could tell you.
No, it's not really, Gary. It's a bit wishy-washy.
Fantastic. You want me to tell you the truth? I'll tell you the truth if you want.
No, because there's no swearing on the show until after 9 o'clock, Gary. We've got to be post-watershed before you can say that word.
Will we be after 9 o'clock tonight, you think?
Oh, goodness knows what will be tonight. Because
scheduled to close at 9 tonight. We're going to be super disciplined and finish about 5:30.
Something like that. But listen, that's what our audience expects, I guess, and that's what our wonderful guests always get, because we've said it time and time again, the show is always about the guests, and when we've got fantastic guests on the programme, you just want to chat away to them, Gary, and that was the same for last week.
Their guests are too good, Andy, and we end up talking to them for too long. Get a few things up, right? We'll chat with Billy for about 15 minutes. We'll ask him about this, and then we end up talking a load of rubbish about something else.
Just the way of it. Well, anyway, folks, if you're tuning in, good to see so many watchers in tonight. Good to see the social media starting to fill up. So if you're watching, say hello, pop that up on Facebook, pop it up on YouTube, or if you're watching from a far-flung place, let us know where you're watching from.
Now, see when you're talking about watchers.
Go on.
This didn't catch my eye, but it caught my ear. I was watching a wee snippet of that Piers Morgan, the other Morgan. The other Morgan? It was on the other Morgan. It was on the other Morgan.
You going all Dutch or something on his guy? No.
And he was talking to Matt Hancock, and Matt Hancock said,
"Watch it now."
And your listeners, and then you could see Piers Morgan in the corner going, oh. and then he said something like, and your watchers. And he went, Piers Morgan's like, we don't have watchers and we don't have listeners. We've got viewers.
Well, that's very true. We have got viewers, and viewers from all over the place. We've got our New York posse back in again. We've got
and Elizabeth from Chicago.
Norma, she doesn't think 9 o'clock's happening.
Nah.
Which is probably right. Irene's in. Who else have we got?
Where's Irene from, Andy?
What, eh?
Is she from somewhere else? Santa? Bonjour.
Drew. Bonjour. There's everyone French and German, exactly.
That was Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen, or as somebody asked, Jackie was asking, is it Captain Morgan?
Captain Morgan, a pub in Corfu I used to frequent. Anyway, that was a while ago.
Gary, I know we don't stick to the script much, but if we had a script tonight, we're way off of it already.
We're off. Andy, anyway, have you been on the internet booking your holiday for the 21st of May?
Oh, for God. Is that when we're getting out, Gary? The 21st
It's probably going to shift. There's a big small print. The small print with the guys down south with Boris and his crew are 21st of May, you can all go on holiday.
I thought it was 21st of June.
No, it's 21st of June. We can all touch and hug and it'll all be gone.
So you can go on holiday, but you just can't touch each other.
Where's the fun in that?
Oh, geez. I'm glad I'm not in government, Gary. Yeah, and not to stick up for Boris or Nicola or anyone, but you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't,
Absolutely.
When do you get? I for one, I'm no booking any holidays this year.
No, we went on the website the other day and thought, right, he's told us we can go away on the 21st of May, of course, unless they change their mind. So, of course, they're going to change their mind. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people booking their holidays away on the 22nd of May, and they're going to get a wee email in, really sorry, you're not allowed out this week either. And it'll be... Whereas up here, my view anyway has been a wee bit more sensible about it. It says maybe you can go on holiday later on in the year, probably don't go abroad, but Don't book anything.
It was that typical Scottish answer. Maybe's aye, maybe's no.
Maybe it's no. Aye. Aye. Well, I
Well,
don't know.
listen, the last thing I want to be doing, first of all, I want to get my 2 doses of my vaccine. So I want to get that done and dusted. The next thing, the thing that I definitely will not be doing, is jumping onto a plane to go to a far-flung destination with a whole bunch of strangers. I want to see my family. I want to see my friends. And I want to have a pint of Guinness in a pub in Paisley at some point.
I remember, Andy, that it's your round, actually, if you remember.
That's all right. Folks, it's my round. If you're joining us when we get out, maybe's ayes, maybe's no, we'll get out.
Last time we were out, you sneaked up the road.
Wasn't me, Gary? Big boy done it and ran away.
Whatever that was.
Oh,
Anyway,
dear.
We're still talking rubbish, Andy, and we're quite good at it. We could talk all night.
Listen, absolutely, Gary. Let's do the usual things that caught our eye, because there's been quite a few things that have caught my eye, Gary. And I know you put in some pictures, but I wanted to talk about property.
Let's talk about property, because Andy, one of the things we tend to do is say, wasn't last week such a brilliant show? And it was a property development show last week, of course, and the guys that were on last week talking about the property in Gilmer Street, we highlighted a number of other things. So what's caught your eye in relation to property this week, Andy?
Well, I think you could not escape the big headline news this week in connection to Paisley, in connection to property. Paisley is named Britain's, so that's not Scotland's, that's not Renfrewshire's. Paisley is named Britain's top property hotspot.
Yeah, and that was straight after our show. So
absolutely.
The whole of the property world was tuning in to Paisley Community Trust chat show and thought, hey, there's a wee bit of sense up there where the guys are talking. Let's put Paisley at the top of the list.
Absolutely. It's fantastic news. Okay, prices rose by 15%. And what that shows to me, Gary, is there's a demand for property, good property in Paisley. There's an interest in wanting to relocate to this town, to buy, to move up, etc., etc. So it's great to see, that demand is there. In that article, if you read down, the Paisley Community Trust chat show is cited in there as being one of the other major factors, Gary, apparently.
Is that right?
Move to Paisley, it's got its own chat show.
Yeah. And the guests are magic, and it overruns to 9:30 every week.
Every night, it's a real treat every Wednesday. So that caught my eye. And then the other thing that caught my eye, I went out for a wee walk. And we went out and walked. We started off for here, walked right into the town, up Oakshaw and round up. We had a fantastic walk, but I took a wee donner past the old RAI, and it was a beautiful day. I think that was Sunday that we walked past, Saturday or Sunday. It was an absolutely beautiful day, and you get to see that building in all its glory, but all its state as well, Gary. And it's
did you fall when you took the second picture?
I like to take pictures at a jaunty angle, Gary. It's my artistic sort of spin that I put on images. Yeah, but you get to see what a magnificent building that is. And then I took a wee walk round the back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see that in the middle there, Gary, but a part of the roof has already collapsed in now. It's in pretty bad nick, but this is a recent collapse.
Yeah.
And
pretty solid though still, Andy, I would imagine, the stonework there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, listen,
if a developer gets to early.
Well, here's the interesting thing, Gary, right? Everybody come close, right? I'm going to tell you a wee secret, right? He's all close. You got to come close, right? There was 2 guys there and they were chopping down some of the landscape, right? Now, you're not meant to tell anyone like this, right? It's a secret.
Is that what they told you?
They were chopping it down and they said that they were working with the property owner because apparently someone was going to view it with view to purchasing.
Wow. Were you not meant to tell anybody?
Top secret. Don't tell anybody, Gary. No. Total secret.
I feel a bit like Gary Barlow here, Andy, getting in and out of that.
You need to do your crooner sessions, Gary.
Have a little patience.
But listen, if that building was to be developed, it would be an absolute gem within Paisley, whether it was a hotel, whether it was flats, accommodation, whether it was some form of health centre, wherever it could be. That building doesn't deserve to lie in the state that it's in. So people of Paisley, get behind it. Whatever it turns into, that'd be great. What else caught my eye this week, Gary? We're going.
What do you want me to ask you?
Go well.
What else caught your eye this week?
Well, we talked about this, and it was the Mars landings, Gary.
Oh, aye.
You know what? You know I like my spacey stuff.
I do know. I had a feeling that this might have come up tonight.
So we've landed Perseverance, the rover, on Mars, and when I say we, I mean NASA. I don't mean Paisley or Paisley Community Trust. It was NASA that done it. But we landed this on Mars, 137 million miles away, Gary.
Aye, but if we mention it, Andy, we get 10% of the profits.
Oh, do. Well, listen, isn't it? If anybody watched it, it was absolutely amazing. If you've got young folks in your family, get them inspired. You can follow Perseverance on Twitter. You can follow Curiosity on Twitter. The stuff that rover is going to be doing over the next few years is amazing. But then, Gary, I noticed you also.
Yeah, I'm going to show you. Oh, that one there. Aye, that caught my eye. And you've got an interesting story about that.
Well, do you know what this is meant to be a picture of, Gary?
It's the Earth.
It's meant to be a picture of Earth. I think it's Venus and Jupiter. But I hate to break your bubble. Earth, Venus, and Jupiter is seen from Mars. It's a fake. It's fake news, Gary.
No way, Andy. No way.
It's fake.
Here was me thinking I was so insignificant just looking at that, and I'm even more insignificant because it's fake.
It's fake, Gary. You've been duped. However, this image I'm going to show you, this is one of the first images from Mars. This image definitely isn't fake.
No, that's no fake. That's no made up. That's real.
He's got his mittens on. It's cold in Mars.
What's the temperature? -273.
Oh, I don't know, but it's chilly anyway. And Bernie's well wrapped up with the looks of things. So that was one of the first pictures coming back from Mars.
That's a good one. So did anything else catch your eye, Andy? There's loads of stuff happening this week.
Oh, well, what else? What else caught my eye? A couple of things, a couple of quick things. If you want your books for Renfrewshire Library, they actually will deliver them to your house. Libraries Direct, bringing books. And we had the Book Festival special, which is running this week.
Yeah. Now, is he talking about books, Andy? Is he depending on what type of book it is and how easy it is to read? Then they'll either get it back within a day off of me or a couple of years.
Well, listen, Gary, at least the opportunity is there. So, folks, jump onto Renfrewshire Leisure's website. There's a link there as well, which I don't know if you can see, but you can get access to all the library books that you want delivered direct to your house. And the other one on the right-hand side is just a picture of Paisley. We can talk about that later. But what I was thinking, you know how those Zoom calls that you see folk on, Gary?
Yeah.
Got all the books behind you.
Yes,
behind them.
They're all fake.
Do you think you could get Renfrewshire libraries to deliver 500 books to you, make you look intelligent?
Jack, I need that.
No, not you. I mean you in plural, not you.
It's 44 weeks in. I can see this end of a blossoming relationship.
That might be a wee business opportunity for the libraries to do fake book backgrounds.
Fake intelligence. I said they've got a job and a half, Andy. Anyways, I want to get semi-serious.
Right, go on, Gary. Get serious.
Something else caught my eye.
What caught your eye, Gary?
It was something that we attended. So we attended this week. It was the Town Centre Action Plan Review Group, a formal presentation of the report. And here's a snippet of it. Towns should be the heart of Scotland's communities. So this report was all about making towns the focus for regeneration in light of the climate emergency, Andy. So it's about 20-minute neighbourhoods. It's about using our existing carbon footprint, not building out of town stuff. So it was about people, climate, and economy, all of that stuff. Really interesting seminar. What did you think of it?
Well, Gary, it's something that we've been saying for a long time, and it's something that's been coming up on this show ever since we started. The refocusing on our town centres and having these places as spaces for folk to live, to enjoy, to relax, to indulge in culture and all of that sort of stuff. It's so important, and it's great to see that there's it's great to see that there's a movement towards that, Gary. So we at Paisley Community Trust, I mean, everyone should know by now, we're absolutely pro the development of our communities and putting our communities at the heart of regeneration in the town. So it's great to see that, Gary.
Yeah, I asked a question at it, Andy, in the papers on the website, there are questions on it, which went along the lines of, great to see this work. What's the timeline for rolling out? Because they mentioned demonstrator projects. Very, very high in their agenda is demonstrator projects. So I asked them the timeline for demonstrator projects, and they say they're already speaking to some places about fast tracking some demonstrator projects. So fingers crossed, and watch this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paisley is absolutely ripe. There's great development opportunities in the town, and more than anything else, we've got a really committed community.
Yeah, we have, Andy, and a very, I think people mention it quite a lot, and we got it last week actually with a doubter last week commenting, and it wasn't quite like a pack rounding on him, but it was very polite, saying, look, let's try and be as positive as we can about where we live and what we're trying to do in the town on regen, social, economic, cultural, all of that stuff. Let's try and be positive rather than saying this place isn't very good.
Absolutely. And people are naturally defensive. And the one thing, again, that news about Paisley being named as Britain's top property hotspot, the amount of, again, negative comments, folk laughing at it, Paisley, you must be joking now. You can look at Paisley in the high street, and okay, Paisley high street's got, shops that are closed, etc., but Paisley is much more than the high street, much more than the town centre. Paisley's got a huge expansive area all the way up to where I am, all the way over to where you are, Gary. And there's some really, really desirable areas to live. There are areas, and we know, Gary, there are areas that have been historically, had challenges and reputations, but we know that there are people in there making a huge difference. We've had some of them on this particular show, so people are really rolling up the sleeves, and I don't think that there's an area that in Paisley that anyone is letting go to waste right now, because the community spirit is high, the activity and action level is high, and we're all grouping together these like-minded people who want to see Paisley progress. So, it's great. And yes, of course, Jackie, it's the show is mentioned, special mention.
Yeah, only one word wrong in that, Jackie.
Partly. Anyway, Gary, where are we at? Have we done all our caught my eye type stuff? And
I think we probably haven't, but in usual fashion, Andy, we have overrun.
We've overrun this segment. We need to start. It is a chat show, so we need to chat to some of our guests, Gary.
We should chat. In fact, I would suggest, Andy, that we chat with all of them. How about
that? That's a good idea, Gary. That's a good idea. Who's up first, Gary? You know the running order. Who are we getting on first?
Everyone's coming on. But she'll be on in a wee minute once I introduce her.
Well, absolutely.
So tonight's show is all about being creative in Paisley and Renfrewshire, and a wonderful creator, if I may say so myself, almost reinvented herself in the town, and her not newfound lease of life in music, because she's music all through her life, as most of us have, but she's thriving now with music, and we want to talk to Evelyn Laurie coming on the show right now to talk about that and more.
Evelyn, how are you?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Evelyn.
Thanks for having me.
Right, Evelyn, with my introduction.
Sorry?
I hope I got you right with my introduction about your lifelong passion for music.
Absolutely. I've been singing since I was 4, as long as I can remember.
Evelyn, we obviously know you, Evelyn, but I'm sure there's folk that are watching the show tonight that don't know who you are, or they maybe seen you on something. But it'd be great for you to just give us an overview. Tell us a bit about who you are and specifically what you do within the town.
So, how long you got? Well, I'm a Paisley buddy, born and bred. First of all, I grew up in Glenburn, Foxbar. Went to Paisley Tech, as was. Got my degree and then left. But I didn't really go very far. I lived in Aberdeen, lived in Glasgow for the longest time, and then moved back to Renfrewshire in, I think, 2010. And came back with rosy tinted specs of the expat and thought, oh, I remember this and I remember that. And all I could hear was people running the town down. Of course, I remembered it being such a fantastic place when I grew up, you know, when there was loads of jobs and there was loads of industry. And but anyway, well, as you know, I'm trying to filter out some bits here. So
don't tell us the gory details, Evelyn.
I sort of inadvertently created a thing called Positive Paisley that a lot of people got on board with, and I think that was great fun, and it was a bit of a focus for a while for people that were positive about the town in all its different aspects. The biggest part of that being what you've said, you know, the people themselves. You said I've reinvented myself in music. Well, so I worked for a long time as a marketing consultant, but I was always, for about 15, 16 years, I've been doing music on the side, sort of gradually working up to having the courage to find my own voice, as it were, because I used to sing in choirs years and years ago. Yeah. And then I started going to jazz vocal workshops and started doing little gigs, then bigger gigs. So I gave up my marketing business about 4 years ago, and I've been focusing on music ever since. But I know that you were going to play a song. I was very involved, as we all were, with the 2021 campaign. Yeah. And I have to say, I mean, I don't know if you've been talking about this, but, you know, poor Coventry, but I think Paisley maybe dodged a bullet there. I mean, if we had got Year of Culture 2021, I think we'd all be a bit greeting.
It would be like this, Evelyn. Everybody would be sitting in their rooms trying to look intelligent, if you know what I mean, Andy, with their bookcases.
I know.
You're so right, Evelyn, because, you know, Paisley 2021, we thought we were going to win. We thought we at least deserved to win. And look at the way that it's turned out. You know, I think I said that exact term a few weeks ago. We probably dodged a bullet, but I think what it did do is it kind of ignited that momentum that you're part of. You know, you talk about the Positive Paisley. I think actually that was probably when I really started to think I'm going to roll my sleeves up and do something here. Positive Paisley took off, and you know, it did engage, and I think actually it was our very own Provost just made a comment there. Have you now noticed there's much less negativity on social media now? Would you agree with that, Evelyn?
Well, I have to admit, I kind of screen out the folk that annoy me, so I only look at the positive folk now. So, but I think, you know, if you look at all these talent shows, you know, X Factor and all the rest of it, it's the ones that come second that get the real career. You know, what it all did was it really focused people on the assets and the heritage and, you know, all the brilliant things. So, I mean, that's all there. You know, we didn't get the badge, but I mean, would have been as we're agreeing, that would have been a bit of a burden this year. So, I mean, I think when you're talking about that property report that came out at the weekend, and one of the things they said that Paisley is such a wonderful place to live because of its proximity to the countryside, but also because of its cultural activity. Yep. So, the message is getting out there, people are seeing that, and I think it was it was always there, but I think it was like the heads had gone down for such a long time, Yep. It's like the Scottish football team, You need to get the heads up.
We're back there as well. I was wanting to put the conversation into context in relation to being creative in Paisley and Renfrewshire. And do you think the area itself has started to cultivate that sense? And has that helped you?
Well, again, I mean, that was a thing that I just grew up with. When I went to the college, there was just so much music around. We used to have cabaret parties. We used to stay in the student flats around the college, and every weekend, or probably during the week as well, we'd have cabaret parties and people would play music or tell a joke or just whatever. There was a bunch that used to dress up like acrobats. They were the Flying Stromboli brothers. So I just thought this town was, reeking of culture and creativity all the time. So the idea that people didn't think that, I think, was more alien to me when I kind of moved back, So, it's fantastic that I think we can see in the last 4 years or so, since I suppose the 2021 campaign became a big focus, but, it was bringing folk out that were already there doing things. Yep. It's not as if they just said, I'm going to start doing this now. The people were doing these things. So it's like brought the focus to them. And you've got, I know you've had Caroline on from Maiden Paisley, and there's Tannahill Arts Festival, Arts and Heritage it is. Book Festival that's on now. All the things that the council organises, Smosh Shot, Halloween, all that. Okay, they haven't happened under COVID, obviously, but these things are all there. The council's invested a lot in Renfrewshire Leisure, employing people to help support and promote the sectors. There are meetups, they call them, for all the different sectors, from music, visual arts. These are all things that have grown up over the past 4 years. Yep. And they're there to support the creative sector. I know you've got Billy on later who's going to talk about Creative Renfrewshire, which is another organisation that's been created to support the creative sectors. But yeah, it's all good. I think the biggest thing is for people to believe it and believe in themselves and believe, get over that cringe factor that used to be there, when folk would say, I'm from Paisley. And it still annoys me when you see folks saying on their Facebook or their Twitter or whatever that they're from Glasgow when they're actually...
Evelyn, we should start a campaign. That really does annoy me. You mentioned something else there and you touched on it again there. It's about you finding your voice and finding your voice again. Where did you get that confidence to just take that extra step and go for
it? When I started performing.
No, you said you found your voice again, and you really found your voice, and you.
Oh, that's a kind of a gradual process. When I started going to jazz vocal workshops about 16 years ago now, and then it's a gradual thing. I've been in so many workshops and training sessions or whatever because I'm not formally trained in music. So for me, it was getting the confidence, and it comes from doing it and people going, not running out of the room. That was all right, so, you do a bit more, you do a bit more, you do a bit more. But, I'm a bit long in the tooth now. So for me, it's also that if I don't do these things now, then, I'm never going to do them. So I'm kind of running to catch up with myself now because I did.
But Evelyn, taking that step and actually recording an album is, that must give you so much confidence and a great thrill that never mind you found your voice, but you've recorded a whole album. Flipping heck.
Yeah, I recorded it in 2018, my first album. And that was one of those things where I thought, I actually had tried to get some grants from Creative Scotland and various places, but it is kind of like they're very much, they will support artists that have already shown they can do something. So if you're just trying to do your first one, you basically have to fund it yourself. So fortunately, we were in the position that we could do that. And it was a kind of, well, if I don't do it, I'll never know. And getting into the studio was an amazing experience, and working with really fantastic musicians. I learned a lot. But it was that thing where, you know, it's like, well, I've made it, maybe nobody else will like it, but it went down really well. I actually, it won an award from Lincoln City Radio. I didn't even know where Lincoln was. I had to go and look it up. Jazz Album of the Year. So
Jazz Album of the Year. Well, that's fantastic. Is it on vinyl?
Not on vinyl. It's CD, and it's on all Spotify, etc., Apple, and all the rest of it.
Have you thought about getting a vinyl press? Because there's a certain chat show presenter who also has a radio program, pointing no elbows at Gary there. But what's the name of your show on Paisley FM, Gary, that you do?
Pure Vinyl, it's called. It's
pure Vinyl.
Do you know how much it costs to get vinyl pressed?
Well, really if you get it printed on vinyl, there's Gary will put it on his show.
I like it. I've got anti-jazz.
On the show.
We've not got to that question yet.
No, I mean, it's expensive.
In fact, I've not started to get into jazz. I've always liked a bit of jazz since, because we've been brought up in Jolson, and Jolson's got a certain type of jazz. And then
Jolson?
Oh, yeah. You ever seen the Jolson story?
Yeah. But
there's a bit in the Jolson story. I watched it recently, and he moves from doing that kind of vaudeville thing, and he went to his mentor guy. I found this new sound, and it was all the New Orleans jazz, and he wanted to bring that feel into what he did.
Okay.
So it was very, very early, that type of jazz, and my like for jazz goes as far as when Hue and Cry's a kind of funky jazz thing that they do.
Yeah.
Gregory Porter. I listen to Gregory Porter quite a lot, and I got a compilation. I like compilations because it gets you in without having to think too seriously about a certain artist or album. And a good compilation. Martin Freeman, he put together a good compilation. Evelyn, really, really good. Entry level jazz for me. But you're talking there about, we're talking there about radio. And of course, you've now got your own radio show. Tell us a wee bit more about that. How did that come about?
So, well, I describe my music as sort of jazz-ish, because I know that if you say jazz, you know, a lot of people, the eyes glaze over. But, you know, I like folk like Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra. And, you know, actually on my album, I've got a cover of Wichita Lineman and Who Knows Where the Time Goes. So, you know, genres are fluid, I think. But yeah, I'm quite active on Twitter, as you know, but I'm active musically, and which is Twitter is great for developing connections in the music business. And I've had a lot of radio play through loads of digital radio stations, all except Paisley FM, I have to say. But anyway,
I know a man that can help you out there.
Well, the other Paisley station has played me. You know, there's another Paisley radio station.
Well,
yes,
and what you've also got to realise as well is that this show gets broadcast out on Thursday nights. Is it 9 o'clock, Gary, or 8 o'clock it goes out on Paisley FM?
I on Paisley FM 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
So you will have your debut, albeit not singing, although we will be playing the video, but it depends whether they, what their final edit is. The video obviously won't work, but we'll at least hear it. So you will have your debut tomorrow.
There you go. But just somebody that had it's a new radio station called Orange Hat Radio, and they had played, they gave me a little show before Christmas, but it was actually a pre-launch thing. It was something that it suited me, it suited them. And then afterwards they said, well, would you like to do a show for us? And I thought, something I've kind of thought about, would I like doing that? So I have a show called Evelyn Laurie's Jazzish, and I just put together an hour of music that I like, basically. So, and I get to put one of my tracks in it. So
Brilliant. Well, there you go. A bluesy tune. There's Paul Stewart, one of our other. It's not a DJ anymore, Gary. You get into trouble if you call it DJs.
No DJs anymore. Andy, we're presenters. Paul and myself at the Paisley FM Tuesday Night Mafia.
I like DJ though.
Well, and Evelyn, for any information about you and what you do, obviously you've got your own website, which I've got up on the screen there. So it's just very simple. It's your name, evelynlaurie.com. So I guess folk can find out more about you and more about your past album. But you did say your first album, so that kind of implied that there's more to come.
Absolutely, thank you, Andy. In a window of opportunity last October, November, I was able to get into a studio and recorded it's a selection of old Scottish songs, 18th, 19th century Scottish songs that we've completely reinvented and given a contemporary spin, plus a couple of originals that I've written or co-written. Well, no, I've written them. It's called My Scottish Heart. But we didn't quite get it finished, which is frustrating. So I'm not quite sure when we're going to get to just do the last few touches. Very soon, I hope, with things beginning to open up again.
Fantastic.
Fingers crossed for that, Evelyn. I hope you get to finish that again. And 2 albums in the bag. That's amazing.
I know.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. And a
I'm
few
not finished yet either.
No, not at all.
Andy, my career's going in reverse. So Evelyn's got her radio show after she done her album. Watch this space.
Oh, we're going to Gary Kerr, the album.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Gary Kerr, you and crying.
Gary Barlow.
So Evelyn Elizabeth is our resident Chicago viewer, so she's going to be tuning in on our, during the day, listening to you all the way over in Chicago. But you did talk about your new work, and we actually do have a little video that you sent us across very kindly, Evelyn. So I think we're probably going to get that on screen and effectively play you out, because we did have a request from New York, given the fact that we're an international broadcasting, but Elisa's in New York and she would like you to sing a little bit, but we've got a video lined up. So we're going to get that one.
We'll do that now, Andy. So that's been a cracking insight into your life and your career, Evelyn, and we wish you every success with the next album. We're going to say thanks for now, and we're going to play your video. So thanks for coming on, Evelyn.
No problem at all.
Oh, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll just get this fired up here.
You got it coming on, Andy?
Got it coming on. Press the play button.
We didn't want to leave our homes. They promised an adventure.
So I'm Evelyn Laurie, and I'm a singer and songwriter based here in my hometown of Paisley in the west of Scotland. I am in the process of recording my second album. I mean, I have been a singer all my life, and it's about 15, 16 years ago, I kind of found a home in jazz because I started attending jazz vocal workshops, which helped me find my own voice.
The journey took its toll, some perished on the voyage.
What I've done is gathered some songs from the 18th and 19th centuries and worked with very talented arranger and musician Ewan Stevenson to put these into contemporary jazz arrangements. I mean, it's really reinventing these songs. There's these songs that have been done so many times. You get to the point where you think, well, how can you do these in a different way? I don't really think anyone has really done this, and I think this is why the musicians are excited about it too.
Mohri Albana.
It's really great for me to be able to work with, some of the best musicians in Scotland. they always want to give their best performance. Because at the end of the day, I mean, what comes out is a lasting memory of what they did as well. I mean, their names are going to be on the album.
I never did return.
I know I'm working with musicians who would be considered jazz musicians, but as far as I'm concerned, they're just great musicians, you know.
The lochs, the mountains, still the heather, sunset skies. And in my heart I always will until the day I die.
I'm really proud of what we're doing. It's been quite an exciting journey from a conversation that my husband and I had a few years ago about, oh, maybe I should do this, because I really like these tunes, to, wow, these are sounding incredible. So I hope other people think so too.
I'm on mute.
The king of the meters.
King of the meter as well. We just had to listen to that absolutely beautiful music, and Evelyn telling us about the new work that she's putting together. That's the first time that I've heard that, because it only came across moments before the show. But isn't that just wonderful, Gary?
It was really well put together, and that was not that I should be surprised, but a really slick wee bit of film there.
Yeah, it was. And I think, you know, not that I'm a music expert or anything like that, but, you know, it's really interesting the direction that Evelyn's taken with that, because you'll have to forgive me, I don't know the guy's name, but the postman who became the sea shanty singer, try saying that when you're sober. That's gone crazy all over the world. So I think there must be a big appetite for that type of sound, and because it's got so much heritage and tradition to it, and Evelyn delivers it so beautifully. Good luck is all I can say, and thanks for sharing that with us tonight, Evelyn. It's been great. And
it's also about not just finding your voice, but just following what you want to do in life. And fair play to Evelyn, she's done that.
Yeah,
let's actually see if you watch this back, Andy. That segment of the show was really enjoyable. Really good chat, really good insight to someone's thoughts, and
honest, very honest. Which is great.
You get someone that says, "Look, I want to do this. I think I'll do. Well, I do it. I'm going to do it."
Absolutely. And already On Your Bike is expecting to see Evelyn in Glastonbury. So
on the Legends stage.
We can only but hope. Evelyn, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for sharing that, and good luck with your future career. We look forward to hearing more from you, and maybe even a slot on Gary's show or Paul's show on Paisley FM.
If it's not on vinyl, it doesn't get a go. It's got to be vinyl. It costed me a fortune this turning my CDs into vinyl now, I tell you.
Oh, that was great, Gary. So, what part of the show are we at tonight? It looks like we're coming up to the all-important question of the week, Gary.
This is the highlight of my week now, Andy, and it comes with music. And it's Annette with question in the week.
I've even put my books up.
Oh, you've got your books up here. Clearly, the Renfrewshire Libraries do a very fast delivery to you, Annette.
There's a level of intelligence there, Annette, that I just can't match.
That's it. At least I was like, quick, get the books. Get
the books. I've just got my daft toys behind me, although they're not toys. I just look at them.
I've never get one book.
You don't get one book you've got lots of musical related stuff though, Gary, behind you. So
anybody could do that.
Annette, how are you? You well?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, so it's good to see the creativeness coming through the show, which was good, because that's how the question came about last week. It was somebody being creative and wanting to sell their products.
Now, Annette, you were talking about the books that you put behind you, but I think when we had Evelyn on and she was doing her musical thing, you went and fetched a guitar behind you to kind of make you look musical as well.
Oh no! As a family, we're trying to learn. So there's 1, 2, 3 in the room. And the little boy's just trying to teach us guitar.
Brilliant. Well, we'll need to get you on as the star turn at some point.
I've even got somebody.
Yeah, you get merch.
I've even got somebody giving me a cup of tea.
Gary's got a tangerine. Look at this merch. You've got a question of the week, Mark. Hold that up. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, come on, what's going on here?
I'm trying to work out where my camera is.
You spent all week coloring that.
Question of the week. So talking about question of the week, let's talk about question of the week last week.
Yes.
And what was it and results and all that sort of stuff in it.
Yeah, you find this. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, so the question came in around somebody who was looking to sell creative stuff in Paisley, and they were asking about our markets. So the question really was, would a regular Paisley Renfrewshire traders market be worthwhile investing in and attracting people into the town centre? And again, we had a fantastic response with over 100 comments actually on social media and shares. So 98% of the people who answered said yes, they wanted another market.
Wow!
So that was fantastic. Lots of positive things that came out of it was that they felt that they wanted it. They wanted music kind of things to sell. They wanted to use indoor spaces as well, which they talked about the old Safeway Co-op store. So could we utilise that? So they weren't just thinking about having the market, but they were trying to utilise spaces around our town centre to put the market in, which is absolutely brilliant, you know. So it's kind of
what I found with the chat that was going on there, Annette, is the appetite for this.
Yeah.
There seems to be a swell for people wanting to spend time in their town centre. But I think the but is the catalyst for that and about actually making it happen. So there maybe needs to have some conversations about how do we make these things happen that are popular.
Yep.
Yes. There was conversations that had already been started, I think, with Paisley First and things like that. So it might be worth us kind of getting in contact with those guys and seeing where they got it to, seeing how we could support them, you know, that sort of stuff. But definitely there is a huge hunger for it, and they see the success of other markets in other towns that they've visited and done. They want that here in Paisley, so which is great.
And that's really positive, Annette, you know, and the thing is, ultimately it'll be over to someone else to drive this forward, perhaps. You'll have the full support of Paisley Community Trust. You can clearly see that there's a community appetite, you know, it's market research. You know, is there an opportunity? Yes, no, yes. But you see things like the markets question, which came in from the community, so positively received. The week before last, we had the bandstand in Barshaw. Massive engagement, massive interest in that. You know, Paisley has got great ideas, but what it also has is brilliant support for these ideas. So those that are brave enough, those that are able, those that are wanting, roll your sleeves up, get involved, make it happen. We'll support you because there's great support out there for you. It's fertile ground.
Yeah. Another cracking question, and then just peeling the edge of the discussion that hopefully we or others can follow up on.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously there is an appetite for it, as you said, and discussions already happening. So I think it's probably a watch this space. Many merchandise people and people want to sell their products, you know, so great.
We could have a stand there with merch on it, Annette, couldn't we?
Oh, definitely. We definitely could.
Yeah. 2 cups and a tangerine. Right, okay. So question of this week then.
Yeah, so there was a bit that did come out of it actually, because there was a discussion about where the markets would go. So they talked about County Square and, you know, is it going along the High Street? But one of the questions that came out of the comments was that should we actually open up the High Street again? So that kind of got me thinking around the towns and town centre kind of well-being kind of vision that they've got at the moment around people, planet and economy. So we kind of come up with another question, is should Paisley High Street pedestrian area be reopened to maybe environmentally friendly traffic. So just maybe trying to put a caveat in that sort of thing. So maybe yes or no. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's an interesting question and way that it's been put, Annette, because obviously if you put the question just as should we open up the high street to traffic, then you're opening up that environment thing. And I think the question a while ago was asked formally, and a lobby came back, which was cars are dirty. There's fumes. Now the green agenda is everywhere. And that me and Andy mentioned the seminar that we attended, the Scotland's Towns Partnership seminar.
Yep.
Is with the green agenda, the potential of having maybe only electric vehicles, maybe only electric drop-off buses, that type of thing could be a good thing for the town centre, or maybe it's okay the way it is. Maybe it's just leaving it pedestrianised. That, and I think that's the question.
Yeah. It is. I mean, when they pedestrianise Paisley, folk will have views on whether that aided the decline of the town. I'm sure folk will feel very strongly that it did, or whether it actually provided a safer space. As we see our town centres evolving, and I guess when you're going to answer this question, you've got to be thinking about what's Paisley High Street or what's the town centre going to be like in 5 years' time, maybe. 5 years' time, we will have a reduced number of shops. We've talked about this in the show. We're not going to go back to those golden days of, the high street bustling with shops. It'll be a mixed use. There'll be retail, there'll be residential, there'll be leisure, there'll be entertainment, there'll be cafes and restaurants, etc., etc. So what then do you want your high street to be at that point? Do you want that to be pedestrianised? Or do you want it to be open, but open under conditions? So environmental traffic or electric cars, buses, as you mentioned, Gary. Because I can't remember, Gary, who we were talking to, who had a really strong opinion that the high street shouldn't be opened back up to cars because they were so pollutant, they were so dirty. They felt it in their chest each day when they went home from working. The shop was really manky because of all the stour and everything. So it'd be an interesting question to see.
Yeah, I'm interested in the feedback on this one, Andy. And it's interesting that the green agenda is there, and the ultimate sanction on green agenda is just don't let any vehicles through there. If the dynamic of the town centre is changing, the question's out there, and we're not lobbying one way or the other. It's just an interesting, again, peek under. What's the train of thought of people in and around town? What do people
we get some good comments in already, and realistic points. There's Jackie saying if it means electric vehicles and cyclists, she might not hear them, and therefore is concerned about our safety. So. An interesting point. Roddy asking, is it not still open one way in the evenings? Jane, absolutely no. But listen, folks, you're entitled to your views. Remember, the question is an either or, yes or no, A or B, whatever it might be. Do all the conversation, do all the engagement, do all the discussion within Facebook. That's where we really get lots of really valuable information. But right now it's QR code time.
Oh my goodness!
That's not going to take off. But folks, this is how easy it is to take part in the survey. So all you need to do is get your smartphone out, stick it onto camera, hold it up to the screen. Right, you hold it up there. It will say "Open Survey Monkey." Click on that. And then you've got an opportunity to answer that question. Should Paisley High Street's pedestrianisation be reopened to environmentally friendly traffic? It's a yes or no.
Andy, something we need to sort out.
Go on.
The QR code doesn't have a theme tune. Need to sort that out.
I'll let your creative imagination get onto that. Gary.
Here's an interesting comment, which I think is worthy of note. I have a view on that, John. I do, and I think if you've not got a through route, the artery for that part of the town is more likely to die. And I do agree with you, John. And you're probably more knowledgeable in that than me, being a taxi driver. But I do agree with you. I think if we could find a compromise solution without lobbying one way or the other, that allows the artery to flow and for it to flow naturally and safely and environmentally friendly, then we should explore it. That's my.
Let's be honest. And let's be honest, the climate emergency it's not going away. It is absolutely not going away. And you look at all the major car manufacturers, they're all going to go electric within the next 10 years. The government has got a race to zero going on. I saw that. Go for it, Tony. We'll happily take your QR code. But as I say, climate emergency ain't going away, so we need to move with the times. But does the high street require to be opened up? That's the question, folks. Be great to have your views on that. And Annette, you'll be back as always next week with the answers and a new question.
Yep, and it's also on Facebook and all our social media. So if you don't use the QR code, get onto our Facebook page.
Absolutely. And also a last before you go, Annette, because Annette's been really taking care of all our social media. It's great to see so many followers out there for Paisley Community Trust, both on Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. Remember, if you're in PA1, PA2 or PA3, you can sign up to become a member. It doesn't cost you anything, but what it does is let us know that you've got our support for our activities and you can get involved with what we do. You don't need to necessarily volunteer, but you can be a member of Paisley Community Trust, your community trust, PA1, PA2, PA3. Sign up at paisleytrust.org. Annette, thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
See you later. Take care. The debate is off and running.
Yeah, back in the day, 11 years ago now, and I think fair comment. I remember that well. So we might be okay with pedestrianisation, or should we open it up?
And remember, it's specifically environmentally friendly vehicles.
Oh yeah, it's not pollutants.
No pollutants available.
So the climate emergency is with us, and Paisley Town Centre needs to contribute. How do we contribute? That's maybe part of the debate as well.
Do our bit. Now, Gary, we talked about keeping to time, and if we're going to keep to time, we've got 3 minutes for our next guest, and that would be a huge underservice to the fantastic next guest that we're bringing on, Gary.
Who is it, Andy?
Well,
you want to do an introduction and a wee bit of a theme tune for next guest?
And you know I don't sing, Gary. I'm rotten at singing. I don't do any theme tunes. All I'll say is it's the one and only Billy Kinnear. Do you need any more than that, Billy?
That was fantastic. I love that. Just nice to hear my name.
That's great.
Nice to hear my name said nicely rather than somebody shouting at me, Billy Kinnear.
Or Billy, you owe me money, or something like that, or a pint, or whatever it might be, Billy.
Earlier, Billy, about whose round it was. Has anybody in your company said that, remember, Billy, next time we go out, it's your round?
Yeah. They've actually got it in print and they've got me to sign it just in case I pull out.
Well, listen, Billy and myself were chatting in the private chat, and we've decided that we could both murder a pint of Guinness at some point. So look at Billy's face, and he was
You know, it's just, I don't know if you saw the social media one. I can't remember if it was for a company or not. It's about all the guys going back to the pub for the first time, and it's the worship they have over the pint, and they do it all in slow mo as the pint's filling up, and they let the sort of leader of the group try one sip at the beginning. They're all around him.
Honestly, guys, I can't stand that drink. Have you got to acquire a taste, or can it come quite quick?
For Guinness. Well, I tell you, when I acquired the taste for Guinness, I was over in Iceland, and Iceland is hugely expensive for everything. A pint of beer was £9, and I thought, well, what am I going to buy for £9 that's going to last me for at least the duration of about 4 hours? And I thought, I'll try that Guinness stuff. So I nursed the Guinness for a couple of hours, and it was a £9 pint of Guinness, and I got the taste after that. I thought I really liked it. So that's what you need to do, Gary.
I'll fly to Iceland, £300. 21st of June, pint of Guinness, please.
I know, pint of Guinness. Anyway, Billy, how you doing, sir? You all right?
I'm doing okay, yeah, I'm doing fine. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's been great. guys are doing a brilliant job, and your guest Evelyn was excellent. But yeah, so this is my life right now. Is all working from home. I'm on the screen all the time, so it's.
Unfortunately, Billy, your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, well, Guy, that was absolutely fantastic. It's been a pleasure, and
what a show it was tonight.
Roll the music.
Okay, anyway, Billy, as in time-honoured fashion, for those people that don't know you, and by way of introduction, people that have tuned in, a bit of a synopsis of who Billy Kinnear is and what you do in and around the town.
Okay, background, same as what Evelyn said earlier on. I'm a Paisley buddy, and it's something I'm really proud to say. Actually, before I talk about myself, I saw somebody in Paisley the other day with a big 4x4 car, and the reg plate was PA15LEY. Don't know if you guys have seen it. I remember telling my wife, and I went, I would love that, because it's just that such pride of, this is where I'm from, it's that. So background, well, I work here just now. I work at West College Scotland, and I'm head of art and design there. I'm also on the board of directors for Creative Renfrewshire, and my whole heritage of in the creative industries, the creative part is, and I love my phrase that I coined from years ago, is I served my time as a musician in Paisley, and it was always something I'm hugely proud to say, because it's that. The heritage of going, I'm Fae Paisley, probably is a better phrase. I'm Fae Paisley, and but it was that, having all my role models and heroes, all these people that were creatives coming from our area, was just something so inspiring. So you had that. I was always looking up. So I was looking up to artists, even if they were only. Do you remember when you were at school? If somebody was 2 or 3 years older than you, there was a massive gap. Between you, it's just such a big gap. So bands that were out doing it, and I was following them, and stand outside the rehearsal studios listening to them, and Paisley was always a huge inspiration, because I remember the wine bar used to be in Paisley. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Bottom of New Street.
Yeah,
I loved it because it was a great musicians hangout, and I remember getting in one night. Of age, of course. You remember I was over 18 at the point now, to specify that.
Oh, we've all done it, Billy. There's we've all done it.
But it was that, getting in, putting your band gear on, and you would see bands all over the place. But bands would come, if they came in to play Glasgow, they would pop into Paisley for a drink, and I remember Echo and the Bunnymen being in, and just standing at the bar going, oh my God. So all that kind of thing, that creativity, I just see it all over the place. Like, style and images and artwork, and it's just always been there, and I'm so proud to say it. But when you have artists from, I know that there are some people that say you pick your nearest city, say where are you from. Yeah. So if you go on your holidays, and remember holidays we used to do, so you would go on an aeroplane and go somewhere, But they say where are you from, and that kind of common thing. You pick the big city because people will understand the city. But I do like always saying I'm from Paisley, and then you say it maybe near Glasgow, whatever. But when you have guys like Richard Madden from Elderslie, but he says on it, he's like in Elderslie, in Paisley, and David Tennant having the straight out of Paisley t-shirt. No, so I'm starting to see more and more and more of that, and it gives me such a lift.
Yeah, I try and change the conversation a bit, Billy, when that comes up. And I say I'm from Paisley. Some people, where's that? And I say, well, Glasgow's 7 miles away, rather than we're close to Glasgow, or Glasgow's. So I try and say Glasgow's close to us. You fly in.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that is? It's quite interesting. You've felt that as well.
Yeah, and it's done for a sheer sense of pride. It's just I do love saying this is where I'm from, Yeah, and I admire so much talent I see on a daily basis. Through my job, we have hundreds of students in the whole of the creative industries.
Yeah.
So that's represented by fine artists, graphic designers, musicians, sound engineers, filmmakers, dancers, actors. There's just so much of it, but you see it on a daily basis, and I love that. It gives me such a Somebody chucked out of the wine
Oh, sure. Chucked out the wine bar, causing trouble as always. But I mean, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it was Evelyn that said, Paisley, when she was kind of reminiscing of those years at Paisley Tech, she talked about Paisley being reeking of culture and creativity. And, Paisley really has been a hotbed of that stuff for forever. It's always produced, whether it's been poets or musicians or artists. And we've got a really proud heritage in the cultural and creative sector. And even today, I mean, people are name checking Paolo. Paolo's perhaps one of our more recent exports, but you've got David Tennant, you've got Richard Mann, you've got a whole host of folk, and that's obviously the musical and acting side. But then you've got Caroline Gormley on the art side. It's just it's still reeking of culture and creativity.
It's definitely even that. I would always have the argument of the greatest network in any form of industry is probably the creative industries. It's the amount of connections. Even chats that you guys and I have had in the past, you instantly make a link. Oh, I know, and I know that. Yeah, and I've worked with, and and it's that brilliant thing about creatives, and creatives actively want to be involved and share and have that history and help develop and and promote each other, market each other as well. And I think that's a fantastic thing. But rather than being in competition with each other, want to help each other. The one I love, I can't remember who said it. It was at one of our Creative Renfrewshire get together evenings, and somebody came out and said, "Did you realise that there is an open mic night on every night of the week in Paisley?"
Yeah.
And that's at different venues. So 7 different venues are in Paisley. But that network of musicians all help and market and support. So not only the musicians and the creativity, but all those different venues as well, which I think is a lovely thing. So everybody promotes everything rather than being said, well, you need to come to mine, but not theirs.
I find a massive effort in that area, Billy, that the open mic scene do work really hard at it, and they have a real pride in not just in what they do, but in where they're performing as well. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I like, I know you had Alfredo Nutini, Paolo's dad from Castlevecchi, on recently, and we had a night in there through Creative Renfrewshire. And if you've been in, it's a cracking venue. There's that lovely sort of walking back in time, and it just feels, and I used to go in there when I was that height, with my gran, and my mum, and and I took my kids, and it's just a lovely little history to it. But we had this lovely alternative venue. We packed it out, and people were literally on top of counters and everything squeezed up to the ceiling. And we had spoken word, we had actors in, we had musicians. With the Paisley Opera in.
Oh, wow.
And we also had ballet dancers. And it was just incredible. All heaved into this tiny little alternative venue. But honestly, guys, it was one of the finest nights of my life. My jaws were hurting for about a week after it because it was just incredible.
You were smiling from ear to ear. And I mean, we're talking about Creative Renfrewshire, and it'd be really good to hear what Creative Renfrewshire's role is within the town and within Greater Renfrewshire, because, the creative sector, and you'll know this, Billy, the COVID and the pandemic that we're in right now, it's had a squeeze on a lot of different sectors. It's had a squeeze in retail, but it really has had a squeeze on creative sectors. And then when you get, particular, politicians saying, folk in the creative sector need to go and retrain, and get proper jobs, But when you realise it's the music, it's the song, it's the artistry that's going to get us all through this. I mean, that's what we're turning to. We're turning to creative cultural content to give us the energy to get through this as well. So the role of Creative Renfrewshire, I guess, is vital in ensuring that you support it through the tough times, but you really support it and promote it during the good times. Yeah, and without a doubt, we've always had that planned, particularly if you're planning events. You're a minimum 12 months in advance for anything that goes on, in professional industry, and a lot of time is sort of 18-month lead. So
what we found is we made a whole bunch of, as I mentioned earlier on, the get-together events, where that's basically calling all ye creatives, everybody all come together and you do presentations, you mingle, you network. We had a really good night one night when we had a sort of speed dating, speed networking night,
Right.
where every single person in the room. Sorry, I'll jump to this just now. The pictures that appear on the screen. This is how we do we break it up. So rather than just sitting and listening to performances, Gary, I'm not sorry. I know Gary's a player.
Gary's on his Scott Vic Module 3 for putting pictures on the screen. Gary, do you want to?
That was great. That was fantastic. So, Andy, are you a musician as well, Andy? Do you play as well?
No, I'm not musical. I'm artistic, but I'm not musical.
I'm musical. Billy, I've got an album coming out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just get it running across the screen. It better be on vinyl. So the thing that's common, particularly when you're going to see bands, is and particularly emerging bands, you'll have a 3 or 4 band bill, and I've played 1,000 of those over the years, and the aspiration is always to go up the bill and be the top of the bill, and that's kind of when you've made it. But I've always maintained it's a real tough ask for people who have never seen you before, never heard of you before, never heard your music before. Yeah. And that could be the 3. You might be there because of one band that you know, but the other 3 bands, it's a tough ask to ask audience to really grab you, and that's anybody. And you'll even hear that from when you'll hear people like Mick Jagger and Bono saying one of the worst things you could say when you're playing a live concert is, "Here's one of our new ones from our new album." And you hear the audience going, going to play stuff that we know, and it's like that. So what we did with the get-together events, and this is through our events planner that we had through Brendan Moon, working with Creative Infrastructure, is what we do is we would get the band up on stage, kind of like a sort of Graham Norton show idea, hence the couch that you can see sitting there now. And this is a band that were signed Sony, I think it was. Oh no, I've forgotten their name right now. But they were up from London touring their first album. But so nobody had heard of them. So it's a tough ask for the audience to engage with them. So what we did is we get them on the stage, drag the couch up, and we interview them. And you find out all about them. And then they can tell you about their music, their influences, and so on. And we interviewed, did a wee survey at the end of these events and asked people what did they think, and they said they were utterly engaged. You would be looking at the drummer who was very funny during the interview, or you would listen out for a particular lyric because the singer said this meant so much to me, and it engaged people so much more. So that was the thing that we felt was really interesting, not just to give somebody a platform to maybe present or do a performance, but also find out about them. Yeah, and then people were engaging so much more. So that was a big thing that we wanted to make sure we do. So obviously during lockdown, we planned to do so much more of those. We had a huge, big lead up to a massive event at the Paisley Abbey. Yeah. However, that's put back to next year. That'll come next year. So we will have some online get-togethers. We've done a couple of those already, doing these sort of surveys and what do you think and about funding advice and that kind of thing already. But it is tough. It is really, really tough. Yeah.
What's your sense, Billy, as we come out of this, of what the creative sector is, how it's going to bounce back?
That's a really, really tough question. It's the fear of now. To my mind, you have that thing where it's cyclical or even up and down. In fact, it's that cultural thing where you say, in my day, talking way back to the wine bar days, I would have a whole wall full of gigs, tickets, stubs waiting for, and you would buy them for the whole year. And literally you're just, and that was well-known acts and local bands and playing yourself. So all of these events were all planned. And it was a cultural thing. You went out and you saw, you promoted, and you supported all of these acts. So I felt as if it's such a darn shame because the last few years I could see the culture of people just going, I want to go out now and I want to see live music. I want to hear live music. And people were getting into that mode again. Yeah. The real hard thing is because that's just went and plummeted. it depends culturally if people will then pick that back up. Part of me says yes, because they're desperate. I mean, guys, I don't know if you're like to go out and see any kind of performance, to go and see a show, you know, just anything at all.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't wait. But other people might say, I'm going to change my lifestyle now and I'm going to start focusing on doing more of whatever, something else. So it's really just the unknown, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's something that we're very keen to support, and we always have been on the show and Paisley Community Trust as a whole, is, you know, supporting those creatives that are coming through in Paisley and Renfrewshire, giving them a platform, shining a spotlight on them, and then ultimately doing that on a sort of local basis. You know, we've talked about localism and 20-minute neighbourhood, and Paisley's got the potential in terms of, you know, venues, you know, whether it's the arts centre or whether it's the bungalow or whatever it might be. It's got that potential when we do unlock again and we can get back out. We've all been given our vaccines and we're able to mingle, and I think there will be so much euphoria. Hopefully there'll be so much euphoria, and we can celebrate it all locally, you know. I actually one of the things that caught my eye, and we usually do a wee segment at the show, Billy, at the start, which is what caught your eye this week, and it was something that we never get a chance to show, but given the conversation, this caught my eye, and this was from, I think it was 1968, and we'll just look at the names that are on that were playing in Paisley at the time, you know. The Who, Joe Cocker, Small Faces, you know, it's almost hard to believe, but that's only one bit. Paisley, the fantastic punk scene and everything, you know.
Yeah, I was talking to, genuinely, because I was having the conversation, I'm not name dropping, my good friend Apollo's, and we were talking about this on Monday and talking about that punk scene and the heritage, about that bungalow bar thing. Yeah. Obviously, where it originally was, and you have an incredible venue run by Alan McEwen and Tommy McGrory. You know, the new bungalow, but they've grabbed that heritage and done that. But that's the same as when you go down to the Cavern, when you have this massive tourist industry to go to the Cavern. It's not the original Cavern.
No, it's not the place. It doesn't
matter, you know. But it's still got the essence, and it's celebrating that heritage. But to mention all those bands and artists that came through, and it was a huge scene which developed. I discovered punk when I was about 15 or 16, so that was a good few years after punk came out, and I always wondered why I discovered punk when punk was already dead. You know, punk's not dead, but why it is because punk, the Paisley punks maintained that strong identity of the punk scene.
Yeah,
you know, when
still a lot about Billy, still a lot of the punks around.
Yeah, and still displaying their colours, and I love it as well. You know, you still see, I remember them, I remember that band. You know, it's powerful.
So in terms of creative Renfrewshire, I mean, obviously, you know, music is one part of the kind of creative sector that you support, but you really are a broad church as far as that goes. Is this a kind of opportunity to kind of refocus, re-energise, and ready for a kind of relaunch? So it'd be good to know, and very similar to Drew's question there, what are the other organisations? How can folk get involved? How can they join Creative Renfrewshire? What would you say? What's your advertisement, Billy, to say get involved with us because we can help you?
Well, that was perfect timing for Drew's question there, because we basically think of ourselves as a network of networks, and like yourselves and, you know, all the boards that are out there, everybody does this voluntarily. We don't want to be, and I mentioned that thing earlier on about being in competition. We're not. We're only here to help market and promote and support any creatives in the area at all. So we want to be almost like a conduit, not to be saying that we're leading. I think the best example is probably when I joined in with you guys and many others when we had the Paisley 2021 thing coming up. I felt for the first time ever we had a huge big banner, we had a big flag, that every single one of us came together and said, let's all get behind this massive flag here and all promote the one thing. And that's kind of how I see the Creative Renfrewshire as being like that idea. It's like we're only here to help if we can pull people together. Again, another thing that I mentioned earlier on about creatives being that networking where they come together and help support each other. I can imagine a scenario where a local filmmaker wants to put on, in part of the script that they have, there's something like Sunshine on Leith at the end of the film where they have all these dancers out, on the high street in Edinburgh or Princess Street even. But they say, well, that's just almost nigh on impossible for me to do that. I'd love to capture this scene. I want to do it in Gilmer Street Station or something or whatever.
Yeah.
If you have a network and realise then you can hook up and we can simply say, well, rather than saying I can't do that scene or I can't do that movie, so we can put you in touch with the local dance troupes, the local dance organisations. But the more and more we do, more get together type events, the more and more we highlight, and like you guys are doing is highlighting and showcasing creatives, the more we can just say, well, there you go, you should be talking to him, you should be talking to her, you should be hooking up.
The Paisley Witches movie, Billy. That's
Paisley Witches movie.
Yeah, that's the one that Gary and I have got parts in it already, haven't we, Gary?
Well, we have, we had a couple of folk in the back, because it's not non-speaking parts, Billy. They've noticed the limitations to our talent.
I know, absolutely. But I know having that big banner for all the creative groups, Billy, to get under is so important. We touched on 2021 and, going for the City of Culture, and there's been a couple of comments on there tonight, in terms of the drive and the push and the galvanisation effect that it had on Paisley and the community. City of Culture, would you want to see Paisley going for it again?
I don't see why not. I think we've only got better after the last one. And you're right. Do you remember that night that we had in UWS, the lobby, with live and all the cameras there, and when they're going to announce who the winner was? I felt as if there wasn't one single person in the room who wasn't convinced we were getting it.
Yeah.
It felt like that. But it was the most surreal moment ever when we didn't get it. It was announced.
This
commentary. And it was the most eerie silence I will ever experience, I think, in my life. But it felt like only 5 minutes later, the entire room just said, let's keep going.
Brilliant.
Let's just keep going. Let's not stop here. Let's keep going. And that's what I feel as if everybody's doing is went up and up and up and expanded and grown and grown and grown. And you guys are included in that, doing shows like this is absolutely fabulous. And it's things like that more and more and more.
Yes, you talk about ambition, Billy. The ambition for the town, I think, is limitless. All these different networks that are talking to each other, we're bringing people together. Things are spinning out of what we do. Things are spinning out about what you guys do. What's the overriding sense of ambition that you've got for the creative network? What do you want to try and achieve with the creative network?
For us, we really want to achieve just that. And sorry, Andy did ask me the question and I waffled on about something else, I think. But, if you want to be part of Creative Renfrewshire, just go to our website, creativerenfrewshire.com, and you basically sign up. That gives you a chance, the opportunity to be notified of, things that are coming up, events that are coming up, any opportunities. But what you'll also see is profiles on lots of other creative organisations and what you guys are up to. So, for us is to have almost like a repository idea, sorry. I just went up there a wee bit, sorry.
I was getting uncomfortable in my seat there.
I don't know where that came from. That probably came from watching Trainspotting again.
So a repository, not a suppository.
A repository, sorry. Got slightly red here.
Is your family watching, Billy?
I hope not. You can edit this out, can't you?
We're going out live.
So a repository. So basically, effectively, everybody like that idea earlier on when I was saying when one group wants to try and achieve something and they realise they can't. A lot of time things come down to budget. When you have a dream, you have a goal where you want to achieve something. And a lot of time it gets, your dreams and ambitions can be shot down because it just becomes untenable. You can't afford it. You can't achieve what you hope to achieve. And so if we have where everybody's all pulling together and we have where everybody's all talking to each other and being creative together and helping support, I think that's our overall dream.
It's a fantastic it's a fantastic ambition, and wholeheartedly Paisley Community Trust, as always, and it goes without saying, we're 100% behind Creative Renfrewshire. Anything we can do to help, promote, support, roll our sleeves up and get on with it, would be really, we'd be delighted to help Billy in any way. But you mentioned Paolo, and Paolo is obviously one of those guests that we would absolutely love to get on the show. But another one of the guests that we'd love to get on the show is Sean Batty. We've talked about Sean Batty, and I'm not very lyrical, but actually I'm going to share this with all of you. I actually wrote a wee poem to Sean Batty last night. Have you seen this? Did you see this, Gary?
I have seen it. I was hoping that maybe we would gloss over it, Andy.
It's a work of genius.
So
right?
you have an interference.
It's a work of. This was my attempt. I've not decided if I'm going to write a poem to Paolo to see if we can get Paolo on the show, but I'm going to write. I wrote this poem and I tweeted it to Sean Batty. So here we go. Right, Sean Batty, let's get chatty on the Paisley Chat Show. Janie's been a guest. We've been chatting with the best. Come on, Sean, don't say no.
Oh, this is different class, Andy. Different
Well
class.
done. We need to get you on as a guest.
I tagged Janie Godley in it, and I tagged Sean Batty. Now, Janie usually likes and retweets everything, but she didn't like that.
Sean's been really elusive as a potential guest. So has Paolo been really elusive as a potential guest. Maybe we'll get Sean and Paolo on now that we've mentioned it.
Do you know it's really funny for the two of those names? Again, the creativity, because we had all the snow recently. Did you see all the gritters out when people start looking at the names on the gritters? So we had one passing us, Paolo Grittini, and they have a ceremony for it as well. Paolo had to go to it. And they do this is the launching of. But that's fabulous, isn't it? So,
as well.
I've got friends from around the world who are commenting, and just saying about the gritters. I heard about this gritters thing. That's brilliant.
I know. You're absolutely right, John. Robbie Burns has got nothing to worry about. He's not replied. To do one more verse.
So another wee thing we've got with Creative Renfrewshire is we've got a new role that we managed to secure funding for as a network producer, which will be starting in March. So we'll do a wee release about that, who the new person is as well. I'll keep it secret just now until we do our official release on it.
And what's that person going to be doing?
So that network producer will be going around all of the groups. You will be getting in touch, going round, making contact, making connections, and saying how can we. So when that individual goes around and speaks to everybody, they will get to know everybody, and they will be able to pull everybody together. That's the idea.
Billy, once you've got that person in place, we'd be delighted to have them on the chat show for sure.
That would be amazing. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, brilliant. Good. So with the new Creative Renfrewshire person, Sean Batty, Paolo Nutini, that can be 3 different shows. That could be one show. That could be a show and a half. That could be a special. We don't mind.
I quite fancied getting on. You talked about having the ballet dancers. I thought the ballet dancers would be a good idea as well. And a whole host that we could do a chat show from Castlevecchi's, Gary, when we're allowed out.
You know what, Andy? See, when we're first allowed out, and we can get that arranged, we could have that. We could do that. That could be our first ever live roadshow chat show.
That's a great idea, and something Alfredo was saying, when things open up, I want to put something else on. So
that's
I know you'll be absolutely up for that. Yeah.
Well, listen, Billy. I mean, obviously, thank you for your time this evening. It's been great to have you on. But I think on behalf of the cultural and creative sector within Renfrewshire, thank you to you and all your colleagues at Creative Renfrewshire. The work that you've been doing to support and promote is brilliant. And long may it continue, Billy. So thank you to you, sir. Thank you to your colleagues. And thank you for coming on the show. It's been brilliant.
Yes, Billy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being very kind with me.
Good evening, Billy. See you later on. Bye
Great
now.
show.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers, Billy.
Oh, that was fantastic. You know, when you hear someone like Billy talking, he's so passionate about, I mean, he's so proud about Paisley, and I think we all share that same feeling, Gary, don't we? We're proud to say we're for Paisley and we've got all this good stuff going on, and we shouldn't be hiding our heads down. We shouldn't be saying that we're from, you know, Glasgow or whatever. We're from Paisley, we're proud of it, and Paisley's got a lot to be proud of, Gary.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all display that in different ways. And so even the most simple thing about on your Twitter profile, so if you've got Twitter, just put you're from Paisley. Very simple. Don't say you're from Glasgow if you're not from Glasgow.
Well,
it quite annoys me at times. I've had the odd rush of blood to the head, and I'll contact somebody and say, "Hey, whereabouts in Glasgow is it your fae?" Knowing they're from Paisley.
Aye, exactly. I'm just quickly checking my Twitter profile here, as we speak, Gary, just to make sure. I'm pretty sure Paisley, Scotland.
Oh, I thought you'd have Earth.
Paisley, well, planet Earth. Most folk know, but Paisley, Scotland. So, folks, there's a wee thing for you. If you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, and goodness knows what else, Paisley. I can see you a bit higher. There we go. Live and work in Paisley.
Easy done. Easy
done. That's a thing for you all. Well, listen, Gary, it's been another brilliant show, and Councillor Devine he's just nailed it. The overrun has overrun.
We're overrun. My dinner's in the dug. I need to go and buy one.
And everywhere's shut.
It has been another intriguing and interesting and hopefully entertaining show for you this evening. Hopefully you've enjoyed Evelyn's insight to her life and music and how she's became a music presenter in her 2 albums.
Yeah.
And Billy's insight to his life in music and the creative sector, and now board member of Creative Renfrewshire, and the ambitions that we have coming out of lockdown to support our creative sector. Because I think if we support the creative sector, we'll get a sense of being, enjoyment, bringing that culture back again. And of course, it will be supporting people, we micro businesses, and our town.
Aye, absolutely. News just in, Gary. My dinner is also in the dug, Gary. But a lot of love for the show tonight, and as always, we say the guests make the show, Gary. It's absolutely.
If it wasn't for the guests, the show wouldn't be the same. And I've got to say though as well, if it wasn't for the guests, we wouldn't overrun. So maybe there's something in that.
Absolutely, and we've got Elizabeth in Chicago. Hold on a second. She's wanted to change her name to Paisley. Now that's dedication for you.
Yeah, you could maybe put it in brackets. Chicago brackets Paisley.
Aye, absolutely. Well, listen, folks, thank you so much indeed for tuning in. We've got another cracking show lined up next week, and we joke about our international connections, but hopefully, fingers crossed, if we get everything right for next week, we're going to have an international dialer inner. We're going to have a guest dialing in from the other hemisphere, the southern one.
That's good, Andy. I like a good dialer inner.
A dialer inner. Well, I don't know. Our guests will be dialing in, zooming in, StreamYarding in. So, folks, make sure you tune in next week. Thank you so much. Make sure you take part on Question of the Week. And other than that, Gary, I think we're pretty much all done, are we not?
Yeah, we're 5 minutes over the overrun, so I think it only leaves for us to say thanks everyone who's tuned in tonight and contributed. Thanks to our guests. Thanks for Annette again. Brilliant Question of the Week segment. And good night from me, Andy.
And it's good night from me. Good night.
Good night, everyone.